Hello everyone. This is going to tell you about your Halton Google Mail and how to use it and how I expect you to use it, and also a few more things about Google, the Google platform and Halton Cloud in general. Okay, so again, use Google Chrome. Make sure that it is your correct version of you, whether that should be your Halton self. That's the only person I'm interested in dealing with is your Halton self. If you go to your Google Drive, your Halton Drive, and again, see, it thinks what's the other one? Okay, here we go. So it brings you to all of your folders. But if you go to this magical little box of boxes, you see that you have a whole bunch of options. Okay, one of which is mail. There are other things here as well that may interest you as time goes on. The Google Classroom is down here. You have a YouTube channel provided through the Halton Cloud, which is kind of cool. If we look at mail, email is one of those tricky forms of communication where we can get ourselves in a whole mess of trouble by doing a couple of things. One is making an assumption about the tone of someone else's email. Emails are just words on a page, so they don't have a tone. I know there's the all caps thing, which is supposed to be yelling, but beyond that, if you think someone's being mean to you on email, if you think they're being condescending to you on email, you may be making some assumptions there, and they may or may not be accurate. So given that that can happen, that means the flip is also true, that when you write an email, someone else could take it the wrong way much more easily than lots of other forms of communication. I can remember my younger brother and his business partner, the two of them had hired a saleswoman to go and sell their products, and they always thought this woman was mad at them about something. And then she would come into the store to visit and check in and everything would be fine. And finally they asked her one day, we always get the impression that you're upset with us with these emails. And she said, what are you talking about? And they sort of went through a few of the emails. That's not what I meant, she said. I was just making a point, or I was just asking you a question. I didn't mean to seem too direct or not friendly or whatever it was. So I remember my brother telling me, you cannot infer or assume tone from an email. So we all have to be careful with this. So I'm going to give you some nuts and bolts about how to avoid that, and also some just sort of protocols that I'd like to follow so that my inbox and your inbox actually don't get overwhelmed, and that so our communication threads between us are always really clear so we all know what is going on. So I've set up so this is my work inbox, but I've set up a fake email thread between me and myself. So this is, pretend this is a student. So this is my Yahoo account, and I'm emailing myself. Now, this is the beginning of this email thread, and so I start with a subject line, and I put the course code in so that the person I'm emailing knows which group of people I'm a part of, okay? So HSB is a course code. Some of you may be in a different course of mine and be using something else. And here is the subject of my email, question about last week's activity. So even better than that would actually be the name of the activity, question about whatever it was, intro activity 1 or whatever it might be. That would be even better, because if I've lost track of when this, and I'm too lazy to look at when this came in, later on, it would be great if that was the title. In any event, there's a little greeting here. Hi, Ms Burke. I was wondering how many paragraphs we should write for part 3. Thanks, Jennifer B. Then I, as a teacher, write back, hi, Jennifer. I believe if you watch the video, you'll find the answer. Let me know if that is not explained in the video or written instructions, Ms Burke. I am not going to answer questions for you that have already been answered in the instructions. I will, however, send you an email like this to point out that you need to reread the instructions or watch the video again if you haven't already, or a recap. So to save yourself from getting this email, you might want to watch things twice, or go back and double check, or read the instructions again. See if your question has already been answered, okay? The best email, or possibly the worst email I got, was one where the student literally said, in part 3 of this task, it says to choose to do either A or B. So do we choose A or B, or do we do both A and B? I had to take a deep breath, and I think it was the end of the semester, and I just emailed back, choose one. I just didn't have it in me anymore to say Look, it says right there, choose. Choose is in your question. You've told me you know what you're supposed to do because you said it says to choose. So you already know you're only supposed to do one of those two things. So reread the instructions, and then maybe everything actually makes more sense than you realize. Okay? You'll see that as this thread continues, we're not necessarily doing the hi so-and-so, blah, 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 as time goes on. It kind of depends on the context. If you're just doing a quick reply back and forth, then maybe this kind of thing here is appropriate. I know that when I was marking work that had come in late, students would say, it's done, you know, have you had a chance to mark that yet? And my reply wasn't, dear so-and-so, yes, no, I just said, yes, done, and your mark is updated. Because there's no need to sort of muss around and write more than we need to. What I ask of you is that you're going to email me, and then that is going to create the beginning of this thread. So anytime you email me, we're going to continue this ongoing conversation. The reason this will be helpful is so that when it feels to you as if I'm not answering you quickly enough, you'll be able to go back and look and say, oh, wait a minute, I got an answer an hour after that email. I got an answer 12 hours after that email. She marked that piece of late work 2 days after I gave it to her, and it was after all late, so it probably wasn't a priority anymore because she's probably marking other things now, which is what will be happening. So we're going to just have this conversation. And the nice thing about this is that if you get frustrated, if your parents get frustrated with me and what's going on, you can look back through this and recap whether or not I'm communicating with you often enough. And I'll be able to do the same. Okay, I'll be able to look back and go, oops, I missed that. Or, hey, so-and-so, you haven't emailed me. I emailed you that question 3 times and you haven't gotten back to me about where that missing work is. Instead of having to search through a bunch of different email threads. So instead of composing a new email to me, you're always just going to look for the thread in your inbox. Okay, and it'll be what you can do is up here is you can search. You can search me, Jennifer, or if you search Burke, it should come up. Okay, so there's a couple of versions of me that come up, and those email threads will come up. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Do not be using the D2L email. I am not interested in taking on another email. I have a private email, I have a professional email, I've got Facebook. It's enough already, enough things to check. And I'm sure you have more than I do. So let's not add to the nonsense. Let's just use this Halton provided email as our communication method between ourselves. So what happens when you are frustrated? You get, there's an evaluation and you look at it and it seems to you that it wasn't marked fairly, or you realize you didn't read an instruction properly and you're thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? My work's going to be crap. My parents are going to be upset, whatever it is. I'm not going to get that scholarship, whatever it might be. Instead of writing to me in all caps in that moment, why is my mark so bad? How dare you do this to me? It does happen. Sometimes there's a couple of things you can do. I've heard of people using the 24-hour wait period. I'm not going to email about that. For 24 hours, I'm going to cool off first. The second thing is to write an email and have someone else read it and say to them, here's my situation, here's who I'm emailing. Does this convey what I want to convey? And trust me, you don't want to convey that you're yelling at me and upset. You want to convey to me that something went wrong or I am confused and I would like to work with you to fix it, okay, to sort it out. It's something the two of us need to solve, okay? It's not a fight that we're having. That's just not how I am. So just be careful about that, and we're going to do the one email thread, and that should keep everything nice and clear and all in one spot.